Are you familiar with the material called amber? Have you ever thought that such material could be used in the creation of powerful weapons and armor? Well, apparently it can be done. Recently on the channel, we've been investigating many of the peculiar materials used in the creation of fantastical armors within the Elder Scrolls universe, such as magical ice, bone, insect chitin, corrupted crystallized god's blood, and even glass. Today, we are addressing what many of you have requested that we look into, and that is the curious creation of amber armor and weapons. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and today we are going to look at amber and see how it all works. And what better place to start our investigation than the real world, to look for A, the existence of the material in our real world, and B, see if there is any precedent use of the material in the creation of armor and weapons. So first, what exactly is amber? Amber, quite simply, is fossilized tree resin. So what is tree resin? Well, resin is a soft, sticky, and highly viscous substance that plants secrete for protection in response to injury. So, say the hardy bark exterior gets peeled away by a deer rubbing its horns on the tree. Well, that is sort of like an open wound on a human body. So instead of a scab forming, the tree secretes resin to protect against insects and pathogens that could take advantage of the open wound, as you could call it. So then amber is the fossilized and hardened version of this ancient tree resin. Because it was originally so sticky and soft, you can often find mosquitoes, ants, various other insects, and also plant materials stuck and preserved inside such amber. Remember Jurassic Park, where many of the dinosaurs were recreated from the DNA that was lying inside the guts of the mosquitoes from prehistoric times, and they were preserved inside amber. Anyways, let's refocus. Time for the second question. What is it used for? Well, there does not seem to be any mention of weapons and armor made of amber. However, it was prized for its beauty and naturally became treated like a gemstone used in an array of jewelry all throughout real-world history, dating back even to Neolithic times. So how does the Elder Scrolls make amber, fossilized tree resin, into full suits of armor better than glass and weapons more powerful than Daedric? Well, I can imagine there will be some kind of magic involved, and there is one important distinction to be made about amber. You see, the material amber itself in the Elder Scrolls series of games has only appeared 3 times. First, as an ingredient in Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, which provides a resist fire effect, and second, in Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, again as an ingredient which is mixed with orc's blood to create a portal to Clavicusval's realm of Oblivion. In the first 2 cases, it appears to be simply just like real-world amber, aside from its magical properties, which all real-world ingredients have in the Elder Scrolls. Don't worry, if you consume juniper berries in real life, you will not become weaker to fire. The third appearance of the material is in the Shivering Isles DLC for Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Now, the DLC is named the Shivering Isles because, you guessed it, it takes place exclusively in Sheogorath's realm of Oblivion, called the Shivering Isles. There is a book that can be found in the Shivering Isles called Bark and Sap, which we will use as a source multiple times throughout this video, but it provides a particular passage on amber indicating exactly what it is. Amber is a colorful resin formed from hardened sap. Much like skin bleeds and scabs over to protect a wound, the root system tunnels bleed a sap that congeals and hardens into amber deposits. Even still, the walls of the roots are very resilient. Swinging a sword at the wall is not enough to puncture it. The large fissures that cause the appearance of amber are the result of the massive pressures and frictional forces encountered by the giant roots as they push through tons of rock and dirt. So unlike real-world amber and likely the amber of Tamriel, which is resin that becomes hardened and fossilized over millions of years, the amber of the Shivering Isles is a sap that hardens to form amber, which protects the structure of the root system. Just so you know, there is a difference between tree resin and tree sap. Sap is more akin to blood in humans, as it is a liquid that transports the cells that contain the water and nutrients that the plant needs, as opposed to resin, which is a thick, sticky substance used to protect open wounds. So amber in Tamriel is likely traditional real-world amber, but the amber of the Shivering Isles is this sap, which hardens by itself, creating amber. Now that everyone is up to speed and we understand exactly what amber is in the context of the Shivering Isles, let's continue our investigation in New Sheoth. When entering the Mania side of New Sheoth, the side of the city called Bliss, you can come across an orcish smith named Dumag Grobonk. When you enter his shop, you can see this beautiful set of amber armor on display, and it turns out that he is a craftsman of amber.
Hello, I'm Dumag Grobonk, best and prettiest smith in town. I know the secret art of forging amber. Here, take this list. It explains what I need. Amber is a resin found in root system tunnels and on gnarls. When treated properly, it is especially suited to lightweight weapons and armor. I alone know the ancient art of forging amber. I can even craft you magical items. Before my master passed on, she hid countless matrices in the world, there to soak up the magical essence of our world. As my master has done, so will I, before I pass on. Find me one of these matrices and enough amber, and I will craft you a magical item.
So Dumag is the sole person in the Shivering Isles and probably all of existence that understands the mysterious craft of making amber into armor and weapons. It seems to be a practice that is passed on from master to student, so I can imagine only 2 people with this knowledge of the craft could possibly exist at one time. He can create for you amber weapons, including an amber bow, sword, warhammer, or mace. As for armor, it's a full set, including an amber shield. How exactly he transforms this hardened sap into weapons and armor, it seems that we will never know, as it's a rather exclusive art form known only to him. I can only speculate that some degree of magic or Daedric rule bending is involved. Remember, you are in the Shivering Isles after all. Crazier things can happen than amber armor. Dumag did also mention where amber is actually found, in the root systems beneath the Shivering Isles and on the creatures known as gnarls. What are gnarls exactly? Well, gnarls, also referred to as walking trees, are a unique creation of the Mad Lord Sheogorath and can be found all over the Isles. The gnarl has the most unusual trait of being able to use magic cast upon it and harness that power to bolster its own defense. Once struck with fire, frost, or lightning, the gnarl grows physically larger and becomes resistant to just that one element for a short time. Interestingly, this is where the gnarl's vulnerability comes into play. At the same time the gnarl is resisting that element it was struck with, it becomes vulnerable to all of the other elements. This is easily exploited by throwing a simple spell of one element at the gnarl and then following up with a more powerful spell of a different element. For example, using fire spells and then using ice spells. More elaboration on the gnarls can be found in the book Bark and Sap. The current and best theory describes the gnarl as the caretakers and stewards of the root system. The creatures tend to the general maintenance and cleaning of the tunnels, clearing away excess amber. This behavior has been observed directly, but observation time was limited due to the aggressive nature of the gnarl. However, the abundance of amber found on the corpses of the creatures further supports this view. When we analyze the corpses of dead gnarl, we can see clearly that these creatures are made entirely of plant material. They are covered in bark and leaves, and over time they decompose similarly to other plant detritus. All attempts to plant gnarl or parts thereof into the ground have been proven simple folly. To date, we don't actually know how the gnarl reproduce. Upon examination, we have found nothing that looks like a brain as found in other sentient creatures. This does lend credence to the symbolic caretaker theory, suggesting a kind of hive mentality, though there have been no substantiated sightings of any such Queen Nal who might be controlling the drones. The other available explanation is that it is magic that animates these creatures, though this author finds resolving difficult questions in this manner to be counterproductive to the development of a rational theory. So that is why Gnarls often possess sources of amber. They work in tandem with the root system that spreads beneath the Shivering Isles by protecting it and clearing excess amounts of amber, which exist to plug wounds in the root system. It is with this amber, the hardened sap of the giant underground root network of the Shivering Isles, that our good friend Dumac Grobonk, resident Mastersmith of Bliss, creates the exceptionally powerful amber armor and weapons. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how amber armor and weapons work. Kind of. The actual intricacies of how Dumag turned amber to armor we will not know. It's a well-kept secret. However, at least we do know the precise nature of this particular type of amber, the hardened sap, and how it differs from the standard amber of Tamriel and our real world, which is fossilized tree resin. Thank you so much for watching. I've really been enjoying making these armor type videos for you, so please leave a like if you enjoyed it, and also get into the comments and let me know what material you would like to see discussed next. All of the other armor type videos are linked down in the description below. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.